Hi, this is Sharon from SAS Statistical Programming. In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to use Proc SURVEYSELECT for creating training and validation datasets. In order to conduct predictive modeling, the analyst must first partition the data using stratified random sampling. In stratified random sampling, a dataset is divided into groups or strata, and observations are randomly selected from each of the strata. In predictive modeling, the levels of target variable make up the strata. So consider a binary target variable. If analyst is interested in creating a 70 to 30% split of the data corresponding to the training and the validation datasets, the analyst will randomly select 70% from the strata corresponding to target equals 0 and the 70% of strata corresponding to target equals 1 and place those observations into the training dataset. The remaining 30% of the data from each strata will be placed into the validation datasets. The SURVEYSELECT procedure can be used to create various types of random samples. For purpose of data partitioning, we will describe how to perform stratified random sampling using the general form below. We're going to look at how to use Proc SURVEYSELECT for creating training and validation dataset. The dataset we're going to use is this permanent dataset we created in previous tutorial. It's AMN_all, and this dataset is saved in library model. Let's run this part of program so we have the AMN data ready. This is our AMN data generated from the permanent data set. We can see this data set has total rows or observations as 284, and for the variables includes all the predictors as well as target variables we need for later analysis. This data, AMN, is the sampling frame, and it contains a list of students in our case. And later, this data set will be partitioned in SURVEYSELECT procedure. And here, I also include a Proc-freq procedure here because I want to take a look at the frequency for this rate past 70. This is the target variable, okay? Let's run this and see the frequency table for rate past 70. We can see the rate past 70, when it's equals to 0, then the percent is 43.31. And for value 1, the percentage is 56.69, okay? So before we run the SURVEYSELECT procedure, first we need to sort the data by strata. The strata, in our case, we're using our target variable, which is rate past 70. This proc sort procedure will sort data by rate past 70. And the output sorted data set, I call it AMN_sort, okay? Let's run this to sort the data. All right, we got this AMN sort data set. So then let's move to the SURVEYSELECT procedure. This SURVEYSELECT procedure will be applied to the data set AMN sort, and also the 70% of data from each strata are sampled, which defined as sample rate equals 0.70 option, as well as the strata statement. And the method equal SRS option is the default method, and request that observation have an equal probability of being selected without replacement. And then this seed equal option defines the starting point for the random number generator and ensures that you generate the same random sample for a given set of procedural parameters each time that seed is used. Okay, and then this all option requests that all observations from the input data set, which is AMN_sort, to be saved in a temporary data set, which is sample_AMN as defined by the out equal option. This data set contains all variables from the input data set, in addition to a variable called selected, which is defined as 1 if the observation was selected from the sample, or 0 otherwise, okay? And also, if this all option has been omitted, only those observations selected would be retained for the training data set, and the remaining data set would not have been retained for the validation data set, okay? That's why we want to include this option. All right, let's run this Proc SURVEYSELECT procedure. This is the output for SURVEYSELECT procedure. Now we can see it has selection method as simple random sampling, and the strata variable is read past 70, okay? It also include the input data set, AMN sort, and also the random number seed included in the seed equal option, and also the stratum sampling rate, which is 0.7, and number of strata, which is the level of read past 70, which is 2, and the total sample size for the training data, 200, okay? And output data set is sample underscore AMN, okay? And then we can take a look at the output data set, which is sample underscore AMN generated from SURVEYSELECT procedure. Let's go to the library. This is a template data set. We go to library, and it should be included under work library. This one, sample underscore AMN, okay? This one, we have total rows or observations is 284. And also we can see it has the selected variable, as well as it has selection prop and the sampling weight. Those are the variables generated with SURVEYSELECT procedure, okay? But later we only need to use this selected variable to partition the data, okay? And then next, the two data step will involve actual partitioning of the original data set using variable selected, okay? In this first data set, here I'm going to create a permanent data set. This is our training data set, which contains 70% of the original sampling frame, okay? And we're going to set this sample underscore AMN generated from SURVEYSELECT. If selected equals 1, that means the observation is included in the 70% group, which is a training data group, okay? So after selected the observations for training data set, we can drop those 3 sampling related variables because we're not going to use them for later analysis, okay? I also include this Proc procedure to check the frequency for read past 70 in this newly generated training data set, okay? Let's run this part of the program and see what we get. Okay, this is the 70% sample of all score. That means it's our training data set. And the frequency for read past 70, we can see the percent for 0 is 43.5 and 1 is 56.5. Those percentages for read past 70, the two values is very similar to the original sampling data set, okay? The original one I copy paste here, it's those 2%. It's very close, okay? And then I'm going to use this data step to create the rest of the 30% data, which is validation data set, okay? Again, we're going to input this sample underscore AMN, and if selected equals 0. So all the observations that meet this condition will be the rest of the 30% data set from sampling frame, which will be included in this validation data set, okay? Again, we're dropping all the sampling related variables. Again, in this Proc procedure, we want to look at the frequency for read past 70 in our validation data set, okay? Let's run this and see what we got. So here we got the percent from read past 70 equals 0 is 42.86, and when it's equals 1, then the percent is 57.14. So we can tell from our training data set and also our validation data set, we can see the sampling proportion of students with read past 70 equals 0 to be approximately 43%, and the proportions of students with read pair 7=1 to be about 57%, which makes the percentage in the sampling frame. Okay. All right, this is it for this tutorial. So we look at how to use Proc SurveySelect to create training and validation data set.